What was the disturbing story of Stalin's son? One cold evening in 1943, after the sun had set on the Sachsenhausen Concentration Camp, one prisoner left his bunkhouse for the last time. Sneaking between the shadows of the huts, the young man reached the wall of the compound, stepping towards the electrified wire boundary. Only then was the silence of the night suddenly broken by gunfire. In July 1941, just 120 miles west of Moscow, approximately 300,000 Soviet troops were captured. Among them was a young artillery lieutenant named Yakov. From the outside, he appeared no different to the others, just one in a sea of captured Red Army soldiers. But Yakov was unique, for he was the son of Joseph Stalin. Later, a message reached Moscow, explaining to the Soviet leader that his eldest son had been captured. In a cold reply, Stalin stated, "I don't have a son captured in Germany." While you may have imagined that being the son of one of the most powerful leaders of all time may have improved the life of Yakov, you couldn't have been further from the truth. Any advantage the relationship could have provided him soon became a curse. As a result, the life of Yakov was one filled with tragedy catalyzed by his father's cruelty. It's well documented that Stalin was a brutal and paranoid leader. However, heartlessness was not only expressed within his political pursuits. Yakov, a shy and quiet young man, was born in Georgia in 1907 to the first wife of Stalin. His birth was followed by his mother's death only 9 months later. Involved in a bank robbery in order to fund the revolution, shortly after Yakov's birth, Stalin was forced to flee Georgia. Abandoned by his father, Yakov would not see Stalin again for several years. With Stalin focused on revolutionary communism, he had little time to spare for his son, resulting in Yakov being raised by his aunt in Georgia's capital. Now a young man, Yakov returned to Russia and was reunited with Stalin, who was now a top communist official. The two regarded each other with, at best, indifference and at worst, hatred. Stalin reportedly constantly verbally and physically abused young Yakov. Stalin's animosity towards his son is believed to have been inspired by Yakov reminding Stalin of his first wife. Later, Yakov began living with a woman named Zoya Gunina, who he told his father he planned to marry. Stalin would react with fury to the news, causing Zoya to flee her home. Already experiencing suicidal tendencies from a young age, Yakov attempted to take his own life by shooting himself in the chest. However, Yakov would survive, the bullet narrowly missing his heart. Stalin would respond with disdain, reported to have remarked, "He couldn't even shoot straight." After reuniting, Yakov would marry Zoya and have a daughter. The marriage would not last long. Tragically, their daughter would die of pneumonia at just 8 months old. He then began dating the daughter of a Soviet first secretary, who later married another man after deeming Yakov as too shy. Stalin reportedly ridiculed his son for this rejection. With millions of Russian citizens ordered to be killed by Stalin during the Great Purge, Stalin unsurprisingly expressed little empathy towards Soviet soldiers, with many shot for their desertion or capture by the enemy. After Operation Barbarossa, the Nazis attacked the Soviets and massacred millions of Russian citizens. As a result, one of the most brutal rulers in history had no choice but to meet another, marking the beginning of Soviet involvement in the Second World War. With the outbreak of war, Stalin's attention was drawn away from the persecution of Russians and towards Soviet defense and retaliation. By now, Stalin and Yakov's relationship was understandably fractured, with Stalin demanding his son go and fight. Captured by the Nazis during deployment, the nature of Yakov's capture remains a mystery. Some sources say he was handed over by Russian soldiers who hated the Soviet system, while others state that as the son of Stalin, Yakov refused to retreat. However, most agree he surrendered willingly. This infuriated Stalin, as the Soviet leader had previously ordered that no Russian soldiers were to surrender. As such, Stalin would continue to view Yakov as cowardly. Consequently, Stalin would disown Yakov and imprison his second wife, leaving Stalin's grandchildren without a mother or father. Apprehended in 1941, Yakov would be transported to the Sachsenhausen Concentration Camp, a camp he shared with many Allied prisoners. During his time in Germany, word got out that Stalin's son had been captured. While Yakov refused to cooperate, the Nazis used his capture as inspiration for a propaganda campaign. One such method included the German Air Force dropping leaflets behind Soviet lines. Inside was a picture of a smiling Yakov, intended to encourage Red Army soldiers to join him in surrender. Following this, the Nazis approached Stalin to swap prisoners, offering Yakov for Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus. Stalin refused, stating, "Just think how many sons ended up in camps. Who would swap them for Paulus? Were they any worse than Yakov?" Despite his coldness towards Yakov, Stalin did however order 2 rescue attempts in 1942. While in the camp, Yakov also heard of Stalin's involvement in the 1940 Katyn Forest massacre, in which nearly 22,000 Polish military officers were executed by the Soviet Union. Reported as a sensitive individual, Yakov would be haunted by his father's atrocities. In 1943, after a lifetime of abandonment, abuse and hardship, ashamed of his father and carrying a heavy heart, Yakov walked towards the camp fence. No one knows exactly how Yakov died. However, evidence suggests that Yakov was shot shortly after the electrified fence had already killed him. After hearing of this, Stalin allegedly stood staring at Yakov's picture for hours after his death. Later, Stalin stated that life had been unfair to Yakov.